My story takes place about a dozen years ago. It's late January, and I am in an REI in Seattle, where an outdoor specialist is showing me how to set up my new half-dome tent. Do you have campers in here? I am not. At this time in my life, I cannot remember the last time I went camping, probably when I was about 10 years old with my parents. So why, you might ask, am I taking up the sport of camping at this point in my life, in the middle of winter? I have been hired by a publisher to write a travel guide about traveling with your dogs. And there were two contract requirements. One, you had to have a dog. And two, you had to visit every place you wrote about. Now, regarding number one, you would think if I'm writing about it, I should have the quintessential Oregonian dog, like a big black lab, or maybe a golden retriever who wants nothing more than to roll in the mud at the dog park. No, my husband and I have two rescued miniature wiener dogs. Cooper and Isis. And regarding number two, visiting all the places that I write about, I had long since run out of my cash advance, and I still had a lot of ground to cover in Washington, Oregon, and even British Columbia. So, not a problem, we can make this work. My husband is going to stay home and work, and I'm going to go out on the road with his old, moldy mummy bag, two wiener dogs, and my new tent. My new tent says it's a cinch to pitch. Say that 5 times. My new tent says it goes from bag to bed in 10 minutes. That's what it says. But I don't want you to think I went into this unprepared, right? So, after phase one in the store, where he showed me how to set it up, phase two, I set it up in the living room. The dogs watch from their Calvin Klein pillows on couch. I read the instructions, I time myself, it takes me about 20 minutes. The dogs will go nowhere near the tent. Time for phase three. I set the tent up in the backyard. 10 minutes, including putting the stakes in the ground. Yes! Doing a little victory dance. And I put freeze-dried chicken bits inside the tent. And I call my dogs by their nicknames. Pumpkin, Sweet Pea, flap, 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 dog door a couple times. And first Isis, she is always first. And then Cooper going to the tent. Pretty soon I hear the crunching sounds. We're good to go. The dogs now believe that magical things happen in this food-producing structure. So a couple months later, it's time for the real deal. And it's been a really long day. And the sun is glinting off the water of Puget Sound as we pull into Fort Worden State Park. And we don't have reservations, but it's March. They have 80 campsites. So I tootle up to the little booth and I chat with the friendly ranger. I'm sorry, say that again. You're sold out. All 80 campsites are occupied. Alrighty then. It turns out there's a world-famous Victorian costume festival in nearby Port Townsend, Washington that weekend. So we're all booked. It's okay, it's cool. We got this. When I get to the next campground 30 miles away in Squim, that's S-E-Q-U-I-N, Squim, the last rays of the dying sun are filtering through the dense tree cover. And by the time I fill out that little envelope with that nubby little wooden pencil and stick it in that thing, it is full on dark. We're talking that special kind, you know what I'm talking about? That pitch black of a moonless night in the dense forest, deep, dark, primeval forest. This is not a problem, for you see, I have a dinner plate-sized flood lamp. That have given me that plugs into the cigarette lighter of the car. So I plug that puppy in and bam, that scene is lit up like S.H.I.E.L.D. would light up a UFO crash landing. And the first thing that I do is I hammer down some stakes to tie the dog's leashes to. 16-foot extendable leashes. Because you know, I'm nice. I want to give them room to roam while I set up camp. And I get busy. I got this, you know. Set the poles and the X's, do the tension of the poles, that thing, you know. And Isis, Miss Nosy Pants, is watching my every move. Meanwhile, Cooper is off somewhere inspecting pine cones for edibility. You know, are they really worth the pokey bits? As soon as I clip the very first top center of the tent to the pole, Isis decides she needs to be in the tent. As I complete the process, she goes in and out. Clip, in. Hey, this is cool. Clip, out. Hi, Mom, what you doing? Clip, in. It's kind of cold out there. Clip, out. Can I help? Anything you need? Clip, in. Aren't there supposed to be chicken bits in here? Clip, out. Mom, where are the chicken bits? I finish clipping the tent, and in she goes again, and that's it. Zip. I close the tent, because she's not coming out again. At which point Cooper, it's always been a few fleas short of a circus, realizes that his sister is in the tent, and he is not. Surely he is missing out on chicken bits. So as I am going to the car for the tent stakes, he is circling the tent, wrapping his leash around it. You can see this coming. Looking for a way in. Remember that big light I told you about that plugs into the cigarette lighter of the car? Well, on the way back, I trip over the cord, unplugging it and plunging us all into darkness. Cooper yelps. I freeze, wait for my eyes to adjust. Broke my way back to the car. I open the car door, and the roof light goes on. And Cooper, in his panic, lunges for it, pulling the leash taut around the tent, popping the poles out of the run, collapsing the tent with Isis still inside. Crazy. Isis yells. I plug in the light, and now my precious pumpkin and sweet pea are pestilence and plague. I unclip plague and I toss him in the back of the car, and I can see the lump of pestilence. She's in the tent fold, so I dig her out and I throw her in the back of the car as well, and I am resurrecting the tent when it starts to drizzle. So I go to the trunk and I get the waterproof cover. Well, I haven't done that part yet, but how hard can it be? So, as I am arranging the rain cover over the tent, yes, somehow I managed to trip over the light cord again. So, I'm mumming my way back to the car. I grope, I plug in, I tell the dogs to stay. I secure the rain cover on the tent, and at this point I'm pretty exhausted, I'm really cold, I'm practically a mummy myself, but I'm not done yet. On one trip from the car, I take my 3 wool blankets and I lay them down in the tent. I don't have a pad. On my next trip, I bring the mummy bag, my king-size pillow, and on the last trip, as I am staggering back to the tent with my Laura Ashley 400 thread count, 100% cotton cover down quilt. Oh yes, I did. I took over the light cord one more time. And I think 2 thoughts. 1, why didn't I move the cord? 2, I wonder if my tent neighbors think I'm trying to signal them SOS more clearly. I should have been. It's time to finish in the dark. I get all of us into the tent. And if you know wieners, you know that they're burrowers. So they dive for the bottom of the mummy bag, and I try to shove my way in after them. Now, you've seen this, it's tapered, it's, narrow at the bottom and then goes up. So, I shove my feet down in the bottom, forcing them to retreat. Isis comes into dog log position on one side of me. Cooper comes into dog log position on the other side of me. And we are wedged. And I'm laying flat on my back in the tent. I cannot sleep like this. So I go into fetal position, rolling on my side. Cooper curls in my stomach into donut dog position. Isis digs, turns 3 times, and settles behind my knees. And this is how we MC Escher ourselves into the mummy bag. And just for shits and giggles, I reach out for my cell phone and look at the screen. 10 minutes, 20 minutes? 1 hour and 49 minutes have passed since I pulled into that damn park. That's not so bad. I'm warm, I'm comfortable, my muscles unclench, my breathing slows. And that, my friends, is when I realize that I really, really have to pee.